What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here, and let's start with the most important question of all. How are you doing today, Josh? You having a good one? Today, I want to talk about something super important. If you've watched the GK Pro Skins matches, you've seen them talk about the idea that greed is a real thing. I think this is a super interesting concept when it comes to pros, and what is greedy for a pro could be drastically different than what is considered greedy for an amateur player. However, after spending some time doing a lesson with someone recently, we talked about the idea of a question that you should be asking while you're out there on the course. And I think this singular question could take you in situations where you're ending up with double and triple bogeys and hopefully bring that down to pars and bogeys at worst. What is that question? I'm glad you asked. Let's jump on in.
So catch me if I fall.
Earlier this year, we did a video featuring Overthrow, Alden Harris, and the Swanky Gentleman talking about scramble shots. Now, when you find yourself in the fairway or find yourself even off the fairway, having a wider array of tools or more shots that you have available to you can make scrambling super easy, because if you only have one or two shots available and then you find yourself in a situation that that shot doesn't fit, it can be really tough to get back on track. The last shot that we talked about in that video was the hardest to throw when it comes to being in that situation, and that is the simple pitch out. So the lesson that inspired this video, we were talking about a moment where this player was about to throw two forehand rollers in a row. The first forehand roller hadn't gone as according to plan, and so he threw another one, hoping to get a little further up the fairway and up and around a corner. Now, after talking through the shot, we determined that the first forehand roller definitely might have been a high value play and maybe the best option that he could have taken to get himself out of trouble. However, stepping up and throwing the second forehand roller, I can almost guarantee that there is no moment that you ever find yourself in where you've scrambled with one forehand roller and the optimal play should be another forehand roller. Unless, of course, the first forehand roller wasn't actually the best shot, but that's neither here nor there. But when you find yourself in that moment where you're off the fairway and you're just trying to get back, logic can kind of leave you for a little bit, and you can simply close or hone in your options to, yeah, this is definitely the best shot, I have to throw it, and we can convince ourselves pretty easily. So I gave this player a question that I think most of us, if we started asking it while we were out on the course, would actually save us a lot of strokes while we're out there and allow us to kind of take a step back from even our situation, think a little more logically about where we're at, and make proper decisions going forward. So what's the question? Quite simply, when you're looking at your next shot, you're asking yourself, is this greedy or needed? This weekend, we have the Magic City Mega Bowl coming up, which is an A tier in Birmingham, Alabama. And this year, that A tier is actually amateur only. So we're at Inverness Disc Golf Course, which is easily the hardest of the courses that the amateurs are going to be playing during this event. This course features tight woods, a ton of elevation change, and some OB that is pretty well placed. When I have players come to Inverness, I always tell them there are actually two courses. The first course is holes 1 and 2, and the second course is holes 3 through 18. Holes 1 and 2 are so treacherous that I have even played these holes from the short pads, which I'm on right now, and been 7 over par coming out of the first 2 holes. But mentally resetting and realizing the rest of the course is its own thing, I was able to actually paddle back in that round all the way to even, and even had a chance to get under par if I would have made some putts. But I mean, in that disc golf, you know. So I want to take you through a couple holes here at this course and talk about that exact question. Is this greedy or needed? Hole 1 comes in at 289 feet with this OB rope lining the entire right side of the fairway. So there's this ridge that kind of settles in on the hole. So if you come in with too much hyzer as a right-handed player, most of the time you're going to hit that hill and it's going to be a 50-50 shot, probably more like a 60-40 shot of rolling OB, and you're going to take a 4 most likely at best on this hole to start off your tournament or start off your round. So that brings us to decision making, not only just when we find ourselves in scramble situations, but even when we find ourselves on the tee shot. This was super fun in my video last Tuesday talking about the Pro Tour, but what I want to do here is I want to go ahead and make a prediction that in the Mega Bowl we have MA2 playing this hole and we have MA3 playing this hole, and I want to go ahead and make the prediction that for MA2, this hole is going to play as a 3.2 or a 3.3. And I think for the MA3 division, I actually think it's going to play as a 3.5 or even a 3.6. The actual numbers will show up in my hand, and Silas, I'll make sure that I get those to you so you don't have to look them up. So what's greedy versus what is needed? What I'm gonna do is, these are my first 2 throws of the day. I'm gonna actually try to throw an aggressive shot up and down to the pin. It is 289 feet all the way down there, but with this little bit of uphill, probably plays a little closer to 320 feet. So I'm gonna go with an origin at first, try to stand it up, let it ride up that hill, and then hopefully land flat. That's the key to this hole. The flatter you can land, the better the shot is going to be. So let's see. If I were playing in a tournament, I think I would be pretty content with that, and hopefully I'd throw some warm-up shots. We're gonna go with the hex, probably a little less hyzer, try to throw a little more flat and see if we can't get even more aggressive here. Okay. That's 2 shots in a row that I would feel pretty okay with if I had thrown them in the tournament. There's really this one big tree kind of dead straight, hopefully Silas can point this out, that you kind of want to throw right at and then be coming in left, not fading too hard, but coming in left when you hit that tree. But the question is, if the shot needs about 320 feet of power on a controlled line, knowing that OB is on the right, is that greedy for me to push all the way up there, or is it needed? For my skill level, a 320-foot shot is not greedy, should not be greedy at all. That should be totally needed and something that I can execute. However, for most of the MA3 fields and even some of the MA2 field that's going to be playing out here, 320 feet with a mid-range or something that they can throw that comfortably is going to be a little tougher, because most of them are going to be stepping up to fairway drivers, or even some of them to throw 320 feet have to throw a distance driver, and that's totally okay. The problem with both of those options though is that the faster the disc is, the more you're going to skip into the hill, which brings the rollaway potential into play. So knowing that it's 289 feet, I want to try a little experiment and tell myself, okay, what is needed versus what is greedy. If I'm only throwing around 300 feet and I'm asking for a max distance shot just to possibly give myself a look at a 2, we're gonna see when we get up there if any of those are actually like within safe putting range. I'm gonna go ahead and try this little experiment right here. If I go right here to this landing area where you can still see me off distant in the camera, I am in a spot where I can see the basket, and I am leaving myself with, I'm looking at a 218-foot shot that is with somewhat of an open area, a little more flat, and I can get all the way up there hopefully. Even if I just throw a 200-foot shot, I'm leaving myself a 20-foot putt, which hopefully I should be able to make. I am 75 feet away from the front of the tee box, which means that I should be able to hopefully jump putt to an area like this. But if I were to try to be a little more greedy, I would come to try to get to this flat area where the footing is going to be a little bit better. This landing area is 100 feet up from the box. Hopefully something that I should be able to throw a nice easy putter at, land right here, which would only leave me with 180 feet to the basket. What's greedy versus what is needed? I know that if I throw a max distance shot while I have a chance of staying inbounds, because I'm throwing that faster disc, it's going to be really tough to do. But if I trust myself to throw 200-foot controlled shots, which is what I should be expecting of myself, I'm going to try to just jump putt to that smaller landing area and see. That is literally right next to my mini. So this is me using my putting putters, and they're landing right next to that mini marker. Let's say that I didn't want to jump putt though, and I just want to throw a nice, easy, controlled approach right next to the basket. That was the polecat, and I want to throw a nice, easy, see, that one even misfired into the hill. And because I didn't come super hyzering into the hill, it rolled away. Both of those shots are exactly where I need to be. They weren't greedy. I took the greed out of the picture and just accepted that I'm playing for a 3 at this point and trusting that I can throw a 200-foot controlled shot. Now, if I were going for that second landing area, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you that trying to throw a jump putt up to 100 feet, especially uphill, is going to be pretty tough for me and not a shot that I feel super comfortable trying to hit over and over again. Yeah, I mean, that 75-foot range that we landed at is about the maximum that I feel I can honestly repeat over and over again. But even if I practiced a small, slow walk up to the shot, look right there, I burned it into the hill and I'm still okay in that moment. I'll try again. Just like that, a super controlled shot up to that landing area. And now I've set myself up for success by being less greedy off the tee and banking on the fact that I can trust my 200-foot shot, and right there, easily repeatable. 2 shots that only got me right next to my landing area. So if we balance out between one shot that was a little short and even this pig getting all the way up here, this is super simple and an easy run at the basket from here. But we'll draw it back to our initial landing area that was back here. Once again, we flubbed a shot and we threw a good shot, and we still ended up safe twice. So from here, what I'm simply trying to do is I'm simply trying to trust the 200-foot shot and letting myself have a 20-footer. And all of these shots are right up next to the basket, letting myself trust the putt and have the opportunity to save the 3 rather than going OB, because I decided to be a little greedy and try to get all the way up there, not thinking about what is my max distance shot, where do I have the least control, and also thinking that when I have to throw a faster disc to reach those distances, it's going to bring the skip of this ridge into the roll and the OB immediately into play. Now, something we haven't checked yet, where did our initial drives go that we said for the player that this isn't greedy, this is needed? Where did those end up? Our first drive ending up pretty short of the basket. I would say I'm about 45 feet out, definitely outside of the circle. I wouldn't even give this too aggressive of a run because there is a slope down behind the basket. So something we didn't even talk about is that the aggression could even not really pay off, because if you're back, let's say landing here and feeling like, okay, through this about 300 feet, that's about the power that I think I hit it with. And yet I didn't even bring the 2 into play because I really am gonna be kind of passive when trying to give this a run, simply because I know that there is a big slope off behind the basket. Like that yellow may not have stuck. I in fact can see it rolling away. Bang, okay. So I'm kind of like letting these dad putt to a degree and just fall in. So from our worst lie, we took a 3. From our best lie, we took a 3 in terms of running that putt. Let's see how the hex did, because the hex is a little closer. The hex is probably on circle's edge, if not just a little outside. So we saved the 3, or we get the 2 from the hex. 2 were its luck. I mean, it was still kind of luck. It definitely shouldn't have stayed in. So we were able to convert on the 2 because I was able to throw a mid-range into this area and get it all the way up there. But even playing the aggressive origin, trying to flip it all the way up, get it to stand up and not turn over, because even you got to take that into effect that if it turned over, OB's all right there. We still end up taking a 3, which is the same thing we took from laying up to the landing zone. So you have to decide what's needed and what's greedy. Now here's the deal. I understand that for lots of people, this safe approach that I tried to add on to the course can be something that you just generally don't agree with. Or it's even shots that you're not very comfortable with because you don't spend a lot of time practicing putter throws, or you just feel a little better when you're putting your foot on the gas. Take for instance this clip of talking with Connor on hole 1 at New London, where I was saying it's a 380-foot hole. Let's throw a 200-foot putter drive, a little chip into the green with your Toro, walk away with our 3. But that's not a shot that he feels very comfortable with, so we adjusted the game plan. I'm gonna do your math for you. 395. We want a, how far are we feeling about putts? 10-foot putt? We're making 10-foot putts easy today? Okay, so 385 feet. No further. We cut that in half. 385 divided by 2, that's like
okay.
190. 190.
Right.
So what are you throwing 190 feet to go straight?
190 feet? Are you sure that that is the number that you wanted to go with?
190.
Because I want to throw a fairway.
Okay.
It has
like,
to go left.
I know it'll go left.
Flip up.
So I was thinking, okay, so it can't be a flip up.
You're not trying to flip something up.
Yeah. Now, my obvious answer there would be, I think that it's important to practice putter throws, especially controlled putter throws, because lots of times you're going to be using those on approach shots anyways, so having it dialed to be able to use in a tee shot is super helpful. But where lots of you are going to find this greed versus needed is when you find yourself scrambling in the fairway. And so I wish that I could show you situation after situation out here, but the honest answer is that most of you are going to find yourselves in weird scenarios, and I can't replicate those on film. That's where where a really important video that I think Josh put out that I actually love is on high percentage shots, and finding the shot for you that is most highly executable can be a little different. In the situation of the student that we're talking about from the lesson, a forehand roller with the tomb is a disc that he has practiced a lot, and he has that shot. He feels very comfortable with that shot. So I'm not disagreeing that the first one was a bad shot. I do think the second one was a bad shot because I asked him, like, in what scenarios do you ever find yourself feeling like you need to throw 2 forehand rollers in a row? Because his second forehand roller also put him in a bad place where he wasn't able to chop off enough on the next shot, leading him to a double bogey. So my question mark was, rather than throwing the forehand roller where you were trying to get a little more distance up the green, up the fairway, trying to chop off more than you actually needed, it may have helped him get that distance, but it put him in a worst case scenario, whereas he has a really good backhand turnover shot. So was there a 50-foot little chip backhand turnover around the corner? Was there a pitch out available that he could have thrown to flat or solid footing to then be able to chop off the rest of the hole in one solid shot because he left himself that opportunity? So here are a few key postures that you may want to look at that you need to ask yourself. Am I being greedy, or am I looking for the shot that's needed? Let's go to yoga time with Robbie. Namaste, my power warriors. Our first position is called the reaching Ricky. This is where you find yourself in a place where you're having to really see just how far you can do the splits. Most often you'll be throwing a forehand of sorts or something crazy. If you ever find yourself extending farther than the Lord made you want to extend, odds are you need to be asking yourself, is this greedy or needed? Our second position is called Little Germ, Big Ideas. This is where you are crowded under a bush because thorns and sharp objects are trying to stab you, and you don't have a lot of extension or room, in the fear that you'll not only lose your value of your name, but you'll lose the value of the round. You're often here looking at a forehand roller, a backhand roller, or even a little turbo. You may want to ask yourself, is this greedy or needed? Our last position is soaring eagle. This is where cameramen are shuddering right now thinking of this, and you're looking in front of you seeing a wall of trees, and your posture leans backwards and you're looking up into the sky, hoping that angels appear and answers come down, finding a gap for you in the tree. It may be best to ask yourself, is this greedy or needed? It's incredible to me that we find ourselves in these scenarios where we're in weird postures and weird positions trying to throw odd shots that we often don't spend a ton of time practicing, and we think to ourselves after we've thrown a bad shot to put ourselves in this scenario, or even had an unlucky shot that puts you in that scenario, that our brain is instantly shifting to what hero shot can I throw from this crazy odd position, rather than going back to a world where we can pitch out or throw the safer shot, the needed shot, rather than being greedy and trying to get back what we've lost by being in that scenario. I promise you that no matter how much you even may have practiced those shots, you've thrown more shots from flat footing in an open area. So trying to find, no matter even if you have to go backwards to get to that area, you're gonna have higher success throwing from that area than you will where it may or may not work out trying to throw that hero shot from any of the yoga poses that we just discussed. The key mentality of asking, is this greedy or needed, is understanding that the players who win at disc golf are the players who execute the most shots correctly. So if you find yourself in a scramble scenario and you're really trying to check yourself on the is this greedy or needed question, 9 times out of 10, it's because you did not execute a shot properly. So choosing to pitch out or choosing to take just what's needed on the shot allows you to immediately get back in that mindset of, I wanted to pitch to that flat area and I did so. I am back in the mental positive of executing the shots I want to. And if I just executed that shot, I need to believe that I can execute the next shot as well. Rather than thinking to myself, I need to throw this hero shot, and if it doesn't work out, it turns out I was actually greedy, which then when you get into that next scenario, you're gonna wanna be even more greedy because you have already lost even more progress in your mind. So therefore you have to do even more of a hero shot from that lie. Where have you thrown the most shots from in your disc golf career? And for every single person, the answer should be from a flat open area. So the needed shot is almost always going to be getting back to a flat open area where where you can do disc golf the way that you know and the way that you can absolutely get out there and crush. So that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. I wanna say thank you so much for tuning in, and I really do love getting to do lessons and to connect with players and really dive into what are problems and things that you're focusing on and you're seeing that you're struggling with, because truly I think that so many people feel isolated and alone in what they're doing out there on the disc golf course, especially at a beginner or amateur level, because you're thinking to yourself, I bet other people aren't struggling with this, when the answer most likely is there are a boatload of people also struggling with that. So if there are topics or things that you often find yourself struggling with and you feel like you're coming across on the course quite often, I would love to know in the comments below, what are some things that you would love to see mental strategies on, or things to attack, such as how do I read the wind? How do I work on this part of my putting? How do I get better at circle 2? Whatever that may be, I would love to hear your answers down below, because that's what the whole point of the Robbie C channel is to help you guys improve one stroke at a time. In the meantime, I want to say thank you so much for watching and thank you for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing rest of the week and that you can make it fantastic for someone else too. But in the meantime, we're going to leave you with the birdies.